was that, Wednesday?
Yeah, what is that? November 8th. Yeah, so, looking at the daunting task of that is that if we get it, we piggyback, but I can't guarantee time on November 1st. If we don't have professionals here, that doesn't work. I may be gone the 8th as well, 22nd, the day before Thanksgiving, it's just not gonna work.
Well, maybe we can all think about it. We'll start our application tonight, maybe we'll revisit it a little later.
All right, I'll keep the schedule here. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
We'd like to start tonight by recalling Richard Berner.
I do.
Mr. Burrow, at the last time we were here in September, Mr. Nazario presented an exhibit regarding the sight lines on Howard Boulevard, and the board members asked some questions regarding the locations of the work that was going to be done as part of this project in relation to that. You have an exhibit tonight prepared for that in response?
I do. So, good evening, everyone. Richard Burrow. So let me just refer quickly to A33, which was the exhibit Mr. Nazario had presented. This exhibit showed the sight line, the actual sight line from the left turn entering as 825 feet, and it showed that that sight line crossed the right-of-way line and up a slope into the site. Looking at this further, I'll refer to my new exhibit, which is what number, please?
35.
A35. Thank you. So A35 actually illustrates the required sight line, not the actual sight line, and because the required sight line is wholly contained within the right-of-way, the question that was asked was, what if the vegetation grows? And then the actual sight line, which was over 800 feet, we had a height of only a little less than 1 foot. Using the required sight line of 720 feet.
So this is 835?
835, yeah. Sorry, 835 is a Howard Boulevard intersection sight distance exhibit, and it is dated today, October 4th, 2023. So these two exhibits basically compare the actual sight distance with the required sight distance. So the required sight distance is over 100 feet less, and even in the worst case scenario, which would be the right hand lane going northbound, looking from the left turn lane, which is the one that was being discussed, the 720 foot sight distance line is contained wholly within the right of way, and the minimum height above the ground would be more than 4 feet. So I believe that alleviates the concern about what happens if the grass grows when it's only 1 foot.
Thank you, Mr. Burrow.
Go ahead. I just want to ask a question. I guess I'm confused why there is a difference between this and what was presented last time.
So let me try and address your confusion then. The difference is the last time we stated the required sight distance was 720 feet, but the line that we drew, which is stationed, was 825 feet, right? So that is the measured distance that you can see, and that's what we illustrated. The question was it safe given there was only 1 foot of clearance above the ground elevation? Our response is it is safe because the required distance is only 720 feet. Because the distance is only 720, the line is shorter, comes back around the curve, so the sight line is wholly within the right of way and doesn't creep up the slope into the site.
Okay, so I get the confusion was where the 825 came from that was discussed last time.
Yeah, the 825 was the maximum distance, but obviously that's in excess of the required distance, which is 720.
Okay.
So sorry for causing that confusion.
And I believe I asked, where was that work taking place on what lot?
So the widening of the road
Yeah.
is
Well, not the widening of the road, where you're doing that, the work in that widening, I had asked that question last time.
so I don't have that to hand, but let me get it for you.
While you're doing that, because I'm a little confused too, so what we're trying to respond to is when cars crest the hill, how much time do they have before there's a tractor trailer truck crossing the road? What's the sidewalk? That's what we're trying to demonstrate here? Yes? That's what we're trying to demonstrate? Should I repeat that?
If you wouldn't mind, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to, what are we trying to demonstrate? That when a car crests the hill, that how much time it has, if there's a tractor trailer crossing the lanes, right? How much time it has to see that? And then obviously slow it down or stop.
So the question that was asked last time we were here
Here we go, yeah.
was we had all this discussion about the left turn filter versus the left turn when it's a solid beam. So the left turn filter, any car, truck or van has right of way. Left turn solid green, they have to evaluate, is there a gap in the opposing traffic?
Yeah.
Right, so the required sight distance to make that evaluation is 720 feet. Our response is we provide 825 feet. Question was asked, well, if the vegetation on the site grows higher than the 0.9 feet, will it still be safe? Our response is yes, because the required distance is less than 825 feet. The required distance for the circumstance that you're asking and we're responding to is 720 feet. That sight line is wholly contained within the right of way, and there's at least 4 feet of height difference. So there's very unlikely to be any interference.
Got it, thanks.
Thank you. And to the question of which lot is this on, it is on proposed lot A, which is existing lot. It's the main lot for the site. I rarely don't have that right to hand. I'm not really super sure why that's, but let me try and answer it for you.
But proposed lot A, does that answer your question?
Yeah, is that the lot you're 100% retaining, correct?
Yes. Well,
No, it's the
You mean
development.
Hercules
It's
now.
the development. It's the
It's
development
the
lot.
development lot.
The development.
Yes, the road widenings occurring on the development lot.
And all the 825 feet will be on the developer's lot.
No, as I described earlier, most of the 825 feet is within the public right of way. A small portion of it is within the developer's development lot.
Okay. So the public, who's maintaining that?
The public right of way, the county.
They're retaining. And what about your portion too? That's not the Hercules lot?
Correct. Thank you.
The only other question, Richard, if you want to put on the record, we did submit to the board via letter a copy of the DEP FHA approval we got. If you want to just talk about that for a second with the application before then, what the applicant received from DEP.
Yeah, certainly. We applied for a flood hazard permit for the proposed development that's in front of this board. And we obtained that permit, and it was granted by New Jersey DEP. That's a thorough review of the flooding or potential flooding on the site, and confirmation that all of our work is our proposed work is in compliance with the current state regulations for flooding and stormwater management. And so we provided a copy of that to the site.
If I could ask, and maybe for the board members, because I don't remember it, I saw the permit, what were the project elements approved as part of that FHA permit? Was it an individual permit, was it a general permit?
It was an individual flood hazard permit, and so that the extent of the confirmed the extent of the floodplain on site, confirmed any impacts to the floodplain, which were very minor, and it confirmed that the stormwater management on site complies with the state regulations.
So was it a stormwater discharge? Was it floodplain fill? What were the specific elements of the project? Because if you just confirmed the floodplain, that's only a jurisdictional.
No, it was way more than, it's a jurisdictional determination that confirmed the extent of the floodplain
Right.
on site. That
I'm
was
trying to
included.
figure out what was in the floodplain that was regulated where you needed it.
So very small elements of the project are in the floodplain. But the floodplain on the site is complicated because the site's floodplain has already been manipulated. When the site was developed, you know, in the first time around, it was flooded, it was filled, and there was a pipe that runs basically through the middle of the site. So how the floodplain exists on the site today isn't a natural circumstance. So the extent of the floodplain was mapped, the impacts on it were mapped. There was no net fill analysis required by the state because of the circumstances I just described. And there were small elements of riparian zone impacts relating to the outfalls, but the outfalls are coincidental with existing outfalls on site, so they were very small elements. But all the buildings were reviewed, you know, any fill associated with the buildings were reviewed, and the stormwater discharges were reviewed. The infiltration strategy for the site, the infiltration rate, you know, numerous rounds of testing that we did, all that was reviewed.
Okay. I understand it. Now I understand what the project elements are. I will, however, make this statement, that we have not yet reviewed the stormwater management report as part of the project. Under the township's municipal stormwater permit, the township has to review it. I wish I had a nickel for every time the DEP got it wrong. We've had this discussion numerous times. We will be reviewing it in detail at that time, but I submit that the DEP approval is not sufficient for us not to review the stormwater. I just want to make that clear because I've had this discussion with the DEP, and they've told me, when I pointed out the glaring errors in their review, they said, "We'll make the developer come back with a new flood hazard." I don't want to go there, but I'm telling you that we still will be reviewing this.
No suggestion that you would. That's all I have for the witness.
Okay, I'm gonna, board members, hang out. Board members, any questions? Questions? Anyone in the public have any questions regarding the testimony that was just given, and only the testimony that was just given? Anyone in the public? Please come forward, state your name, your address. Welcome. Can we get a mic to her, Richard? Can we get that mic over there?
Yes.
And just, state your name
Hi.
and your address.
My name is Donna Warner, and I live in Nolan's Ridge, 38 Harrison Way.
Donna, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's my 10 acre, I don't know, but, the pictures that you have up there. I wasn't at the last meeting, but, is that involving the light on Howard Boulevard or anything like that?
Yes, there's a light proposed as part of the project on Howard Boulevard.
Can you point to that map and show us what it would be?
We'll point it out, but this is not related.
Yeah, it's not, so, Donna, Donna, yeah, Donna. So, Donna, 1 second, just, question for the testimony that was there. There is a traffic light on Howard Boulevard. We can't go back down that rabbit hole. They testified to that at earlier meetings. That will come again up there, but we have to just ask the question of the testimony he actually gave, so we can actually work through that. But Richard's gonna be very kind to point out the, traffic light where it could possibly be on Howard Boulevard.
Certainly, so just referring to Exhibit A28, which shows the overall project, the proposed traffic signal is on Howard Boulevard, close to Route 80, actually really close to the existing driveway off of Howard Boulevard, and quite some distance from Route 46. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Anyone else in the public questions regarding, testimony that was given? State your name and your address.
My name is Lawrence Ambrose. I live at 13 Magnolia Lane. And the question I had is a discussion about trucks crossing over the road.
So, again, I'll repeat myself there. Richard just gave about 10 minutes of testimony about the knob, the ridge, and the stormwater. All the stuff that we're talking about, that you're asking, has been done in past meetings. So, we can't go back down that road, those times have passed. It doesn't mean we're not gonna have time to ask him again, but we have to just stay on the topic of what he testified to at this moment. Okay, thank you so much. Come on.
And spell your last name, please.
Mike Stanzillis, 31 Willow Street, Mount Arlington, New Jersey. And I just want to thank everyone for coming up, and I want to reiterate Chairman Bounce. Thank you for coming, but we do have to stick with the questions and comments on tonight's testimony. I know everyone has a million questions. It's your first time here. There will be opportunities for other questions and on other subjects. That's on everyone's mind, mine included, but please stick with the testimony of this evening. So my question is following up on Mr. DiFilippo's comment on the sightline distance for the expert witness on when you had mentioned how much time does it have when a truck is turning over the crest, and he had asked that question, and I was wondering about, do you calculate the speed when you have the distance of the sight line over the crest, the speed of the travel? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. So yes, I just want to address one thing. There is some change in grade here, but you're going downhill. The sightline doesn't go over over a crest on Howard Boulevard. I know there's undulations on Howard Boulevard. To answer your question is, how do we determine the distance? It is based on time and therefore based on the speed limit. So it's a function of the design speed of the road, which I believe we testified to previously. I don't remember off the top of my head. So the required distance of 720 feet is a function of the speed. That's how we get that.
So I guess my question is, no one speeds in Mount Arlington or Roxbury. On Howard Boulevard, we all do the speed limit. But there may be somebody who would speed, hypothetically. Would that then shorten the distance? And then there's a truck that decides, I'm going to go, oh, I've got a second. And then the high school kid comes in speeding. And I know my son did that and got into an accident when he first got his license. So I'm just concerned about the compression of the distance with speeders.
Richard, Mr. Desario did testify at the last meeting that the design speed, what they designed, was greater than what the posted speed limit is for that reason.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
So it gives the flexibility for,
Has to.
hypothetically, none of us would speed, but my son did speed. And he got plenty of
So our design is for... Yeah, so to answer your question, same as was testified before, our design speed is greater than the speed limit for the road, which in actual fact means the distance we have to provide is greater, not shorter. So we are anticipating somebody not here tonight might speed on the road.
Okay. Yeah, somebody not here.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else in the public have any questions or concerns regarding testimony that was given? And just so there will be open public towards the end of the meeting, you can ask your questions. And don't take anything I say, ask your questions. Don't be afraid to come up. Okay? We're here to answer your questions. Okay, anyone else in the public? Here, none, closed public portion on that. Go ahead.
Well, Tom will ask you to swear in Mr. Morency.
Yeah, Mr. Roxbury, swear your testimony will be true, the whole truth, and nothing but
I do. Mr. Morency, why don't you start by giving the board the benefit of who you are, your experience, your educational background? Should I use
Yeah,
this
you
mic?
just go like this. If you want to hold that one, that's fine. Sure, that would be great.
Thank you. My name is Sean, S-E-A-N, Moronsky, M-O-R-O-N-S-K-I, and I'm a licensed planner with Langen Engineering and Environmental Services. I have a master's degree in urban planning from New York University. I've been a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners since 1999. I've had my New Jersey professional planning license since year 2000. My license is current. In terms of what I'm going to be testifying on, I have authored several environmental impact statements, community impact statements, fiscal impact statements that have been submitted to municipalities or state and federal agencies.